Okay, thank you. Everybody ready?
No, good.
Okay, let's get started. Call to order the April 18th, 2023 meeting of Ag and Rural Affairs. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the, I believe it was a March meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes?
Make a
No.
motion to
Was
approve.
was it March or February?
I don't remember. I wasn't here, so that's why I don't know.
It was
February.
Whichever one it was,
The
in
last
February.
meeting was at Farwin's.
Yep.
Yes.
February 21st.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Public appearance for non-agenda items. Is there anyone here to speak on anything that is not on the agenda? Nope, seeing none. Agenda review, any changes to the agenda, Deanna?
There are none that I'm aware.
All right. Agenda item 5A, conditional use request, CU 2499-23 by Robin, is it Loger? Agent for Yahara Minerals and Fitchburg Hills for a conditional use to allow for non-metallic mineral extraction operation in order to operate a new quarry at property associated with 6117 Lacey Road. So I'll turn it over to you and you can give us a little presentation on
Which item number was this?
it. That is 5A.
Yeah, good question.
Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to listen to us this afternoon. Okay, we've got okay, Dustin's not here. We own 100 acres. It's the old Richardson farm. It would be just south of the Hop House on the south side of Lacey Road. We purchased that several years ago, and in the meantime, we were approached by the city of Fitchburg about a South Stoner neighborhood plan there. And they did talk to us about it and asked us if we would be interested in looking into develop that off. And we said that's something we would, be interested in doing. So we've been in conversations with that, and that is in the process, I think, of getting awarded a contract for somebody to put that plan together. But with that being said, what we've done in the meantime is we said there's some work that, needs to be done on there, because there's gonna be rock that's gonna have to be excavated no matter what, happens with it, that's gonna have to be dealt with. And so we put a plan together of how we were gonna do that, so that we could expedite to bringing the lots online sooner than if we wait until the comprehensive plan is all redone, and then, start from scratch from that time moving forward. So that's what's precipitating what we have here. Here's where the property's at. It's right next to O'Brien Solar Fields there. It's located at the intersection of Lacey Road and Commerce Park Drive. Like I say, we purchased it in 2021. Total of 5 parcels, 100 acres, some wooded area on the northwest corner. We're planning ahead for the future of what is going to happen there, and like I say, we've been working with Fitchburg and the neighborhood, and we've had all positive feedback thus far. Again, here's another picture of the slide of the site and of the zoning around it. What we did then is, in order to do this, we have to put a reclamation plan together and for what we're going to do at the site when it's completed. So what that does is it ensures that if something catastrophic would happen to Yahara Materials prior to us developing the property off, that it would get reclaimed. So that's why we put that reclamation plan together, and that's it's called NR 135, and that's monitored by Dane County. So, you know, it is gonna get reclaimed to an agricultural use. That's what we've proposed right now, for the simple reason we don't know what the comprehensive, updated plan for the comprehensive plan is gonna be, but that's, it'll probably never see that, in essence. This is kind of a brief synopsis of what would happen there with us. We, obviously, we're planning and citing things and getting the zoning taken care of now. Once we get that taken care of, then we'll come in and, you know, clear and grub, strip the topsoil, keep the topsoil separate from the overburden. And once we get that stuff opened up, we'll drill it and blast it, and we'll crush and screen it. And then at the end of it, we'll close out and recycle the site and reclaim it, as our plan shows. This is kind of our operational plan. The green berms, those are gonna be screened, and we will be planting some trees and screening plants on there. We're gonna be, the yellow line, red line's property line, the yellow line is that's our setback where we're gonna mine to. Okay, I shouldn't say mine to, where we will operate to. Most of our mining is gonna take place on the western left side of the screen and down to the bottom of the south. And we will have retention ponds on the east side, kind of right where the end of that berm is. We'll probably have a couple ponds right in those areas there for water runoff for the site. This is our reclamation plan, and again, you can see the blue 1040 line. That is about where the floor is gonna be when we're done. That's pretty much where the floor will be. That blue line then, when it goes to the east, it's gonna slope down, be a gentle slope off to the east. On the west side, you can see that 1040 line, and basically that's gonna be sloping up to the top of the quarry walls. We will be in negotiations with the Wallbeck Group. What will happen is, for our reclamation plan, we had to put something in there what was gonna be there. But that wall will probably come out of there, because it'll be eliminated. And then on the south end, right now, when that's finished, we will have approximately about a 45-foot high wall there. But we've got different things that we're going to possibly do with that once we get the comprehensive plan back. This here shows you the top section is a cross-section of the slope, and it's going from basically south to north. And that's what's there now. The cross-section underneath it, that's what it's gonna look like when we're done. That's what the grade is gonna look like. So you can see the dash line is about what we're gonna take out. This is a typical landscape berm. You see the fence, weepers. The berms will be between 5 and 10 feet tall, seeded, ditch checks. We'll put all new fencing completely around the site, signed, and then have lock gates and a 200-foot asphalt paved driveway coming in. This is a picture, slide of what the landscape screening berm will be. Pretty much the same, other than it denotes the trees that are gonna be in it. This here is basically a slide of what the high wall is gonna look like, and that would be the fence, the berm, and then the vertical high wall. So, our hope is that, we have our reclamation plan completely done. And, our hope is tonight that, after you folks, give your comments, and then we'll be meeting with the plan commission later, that once this gets passed, we have the final, reclamation plan to send into Dane County. They have, 30 to, 90 days to, turn that back around to us. And in the meantime, we will be applying for a DNR storm wastewater management permit. And what that does, they will issue that to us, and then they will come out and inspect the site and make sure it's internally drained, that everything's on site, stays on site, and they will monitor it, and that we meet the standards of what we said we're gonna do. Traffic is a big concern, and so we had KL Engineering as, they're our traffic engineer and our infrastructure engineer, and they've done a lot of work in the area. We put 3 scenarios up there. The green, that is coming out of the site heading west on Lacey Road down to Fitchburg. We only put that on to show you that we looked at it. We have no intentions of using that route, okay? We don't have any intention of going that way, but we put it on there. Our intent is to go on, during peak hours, we will go east on Lacey Road down to Seminole, and either go north to McKee and into town, or we'll take Lacey all the way down to Fish Hatchery and go south. During non-peak hours, we'll go straight across Commerce Drive all the way to PD. This is some of the reasonings when we chose the routes. Is a lot of it is, we put everything in there, but we looked at pedestrian crossings, stop signs, traffic signals, future roundabouts, turns. We looked at all of those, and the more of those items that are in there, the less desirable the route is to take. That's a synopsis of what we're gonna do. Has anybody got any questions for us? I know it's kind of
Yeah.
quick.
What do you anticipate that the timing is gonna be on the whole project? I know you don't know for sure when it'll be done.
For the quarrying,
Yeah,
our hope is to be within 5 years. That's what our hope is.
okay.
What's your permit, are you gonna restrict the permit to 5 years, or are you gonna ask for a longer time frame?
Right now, our intent is, we're asking for 5 years right now.
Okay.
That's what we're asking for. And what we are hoping is that the process moves for, the update of the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan. That's a process that's gonna take a year to 2 to get that straightened out. Once that comes back, then we'll know what their suggestion and what they would like to see happening in that area. So then what we can do is then we'll start planning and designing the infrastructure, the streets, and all that, all those things that are gonna happen. And then once those all get finalized, we would bring them back to the city, and there would be a developer's agreement, and all those things would go into place, and then we would finish up whatever we have left would be part of the site development.
The reason I ask is, weren't you guys looking at the property to the south of there at one time?
Yeah, a number of years ago, we looked at that property back there, and the problem with that was
Access.
yeah, Lacey,
Grandview. Yeah.
Fitchburg was very, workable with us. Fitch-Verona was owned by Fitchburg and Verona.
Right.
And Verona, whatever the reason was, they just did not want to, I think part of it is they didn't want to stick any money in the road just because of,
No, I understand.
Yeah,
Very,
so-
very familiar with that. The
Yeah,
reason
so
I
that's-
asked is, because if that is ever gonna be quarried, the way to exit that quarry, that property, is through this property.
yeah.
That's
and-
why I don't wanna see it, you have too tight a time frame.
we've discussed this with Deanna in length. Our hope is that within those 5 years, that all those things can come together.
Okay.
And we've expressed to Deanna that that's why in the conditions we can come back at the end of that 5 years. We can come back, and as long as we're, in compliance and we're doing everything we should, and through no fault of our own, it just, the wheels of progress only move so fast sometimes. If that stuff if we aren't ready to continue operating this under a site development project proposal, we would have to renew this current plan, because the county will not release this reclamation plan until there is something else to operate on. So we have to have one of those in order, or we won't have
I'm very familiar,
Yeah, oh, okay, great.
very familiar.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that's,
Okay,
That's
like I
what-
say, if the land to the south was ever gonna be quarried, the way to exit that is through,
sure.
through your own road out this way.
Mhm.
And don't go on Grandview, don't go on the other. It's just better for everybody, better for the city, better for everybody.
No,
So-
we agree with you.
And so, as long as that, because we need quarries. If we didn't have any quarries, everybody would have a mud driveway and a mud road. So we need quarries, and they're always controversial. Nobody wants it in their backyard, so, very familiar. Lyman Anderson was a good friend of mine.
Okay.
So if this land is gonna be reclaimed as commercial industrial, and I don't know whether that's going to be the case, maybe Deanna, you can talk about that in your staff report. That would probably be less of a conflict with having the trucks coming through there to handle that site.
That's my
But I
point.
second what Mark is saying. Fitchburg does not want that traffic going out on Grandview Road. That was a huge issue with the last application, and it wasn't just the issue of whether Fitzroy was going to be used. It was Grandview. So the quarry operations need to come out, as Mark said, on Lacey Road, however that's being done. And that's why I'm saying if we end up with commercial industrial there, you're gonna have less conflict. I don't know whether that's where we end up. If you wanna do residential, I don't know how you're gonna be running trucks through there.
Well,
So we'll have to kind of see how,
With the-
where we end up with here.
with the plan comes through, we'll have a lot clearer.
You'll have a lot more.
Exactly, yep.
I have
Randy,
some
yep.
questions on, if you could go back to the routes,
Mhm.
I don't know which line, it doesn't say, I'm hoping you know. We might come to that. You mentioned Commerce is off-peak times?
Yes,
Why is that?
because during peak times, you're gonna, like, early in the morning and late in the afternoon, you're gonna have a lot of traffic up and down Lacey Road where we don't wanna be crossing. There's basically a stop sign, then the loaded trucks would have to pull out in the middle of that traffic. So-
Commerce does not have a traffic light?
No.
That must be further over, okay. I just see Seminole Highway, peak times, you're gonna have a lot of traffic. Commerce, I see less traffic, but I understand you're trying to access McKee. I see a traffic light up there.
At McKee.
Yeah, the key.
I don't
Yeah,
think
key.
there's at Commerce and Lacey.
Oh,
Commerce
Commerce
and
and
Down
Lacey,
in-
Commerce and
just
Lacey.
trying to come out.
Yeah,
and
crossing,
Crossing that traffic on Lacey
Yeah.
could be dangerous.
Is Commerce not actually a stoplight, it's only an emergency stoplight?
No, I think that's the one over,
Yeah, that's the one over on,
or the.
No, I think it's Commerce.
no,
Mm.
Commerce is signaled. I mean, the other one over, I
Yeah,
can't
all
think
the
of,
fires.
Yeah,
Two
one
over.
over. Right side is.
I understand your predicament, I do, but I just see routing traffic over to Seminole. You have a lot of residential, people trying to pull out, you have the Seminole Pool Club over there in the summer months, kids crossing. I just have some concerns there. How many trucks again? I know we talked about. 6, 8.
right now, it's approximately 70.
A day.
Yes.
70 a day.
Pardon me?
That's a lot of trucks.
35 each way.
Okay.
Right.
Yes. And if you drop down to the once that site is developed out, there's 3,500 trips a day that's coming out of there, so our traffic is basically not even 2% of.
Just
what-
a different kind of traffic, broken windshields and
I respect.
potentially.
Yeah, I respect that.
But there's no traffic going south at all, other than you're taking it east on Lacey to Fish Hatchery if you're going south, correct?
Correct.
So
Yeah,
there's
we are,
no traffic going south on Seminole Highway?
correct,
Okay, good, and nothing on Fitzroy?
correct. Yeah, we're not going east.
Yeah, I have a question on that.
We want
I
to make
mean,
certain of both of those things.
Right, I want to make certain of that because of all the bike crossings, for one.
Right,
And then with the development in Verona, over by Arrowhead and Costco, and there's gonna be future development there, is your only route there gonna be Verona Road?
Say that again?
You know where all the development is in Verona?
Yep,
You know, by PB
yes.
and, 18151, there's a lot of development there. I'm sure that's where a lot of your product's gonna go, to the
Any-
south and west.
Anything that
And-
goes south and west, it'll go out to PD and then, or McKee Road rather, whichever you prefer to
Right.
call it. Out to
18151.
18151 and disperse that way, or if we're going to the south east,
To Oregon.
we would go down to Lacey to Fish Hatchery and then take Fish Hatchery.
Seems like hauling through a large residential area there too.
yeah, but
I don't
it's,
know,
but it's
any
county
way around
highway.
it, but-
I mean, you gotta get these trucks on roads that can handle them.
right.
So,
So are we positive this area is gonna be developed? Because I'm a kind of a common sense gal, and it makes 0 sense to me to disrupt perfectly good farmland and try to patch it up and make farmland out of it again. But I'm just thinking common sense. That's my
I
philosophy.
didn't quite hear your question.
So are we positive that this site is gonna be developed? Is it gonna become something, or are we just disrupting perfectly good farmland
No,
and
we're,
patching it back up?
that is the
potentially?
intent, and that's why Fitchburg is in, Fitchburg, Yahara, and the Walbeck are getting involved in this, updating this South Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan. That's the whole reason we're doing it.
I guess I would just like really concrete evidence of where we're going with this.
it's already in the comp plan.
I think maybe
It's
I
in that
can
neighborhood
jump in
plan, so
there.
yeah, why don't we have,
That might
and
be
Danny,
my
you can give us
part.
your staff report too then.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Can
so.
you kind of start out with an overview of where we are with the comp plan in relation to this area? And also, what other quarry operations are currently operating in this area?
Let me
Yeah.
just go grab my map. You can hand back to me or the screen. Okay, I'm gonna pull up my map here. So, this is the site that we're talking here. We have the, 2 quarries up here to the north that are currently in operation, and then, a quarry directly to the west that is currently in operation. So, I'll just put this out on the table already. The new Lacey Road is designed to handle this kind of truck traffic and to accommodate the existing quarries. So, what's happening here is a request for conditional use. The current zoning of the site is agriculture, as you all might guess. And under that current zoning, under state law, we need to have a reclamation plan that brings the site back to agriculture. That's just state law that we have to work for. So this site is already part of the South Stoner neighborhood future urban development area. It's our future neighborhood plan. Brad is leading up this project. We have already selected the consultant to do this neighborhood plan. The neighborhood plan will cover the entire area that's shown in orange. Brad's going to be going through the contracting process here in the next month and a half, and we are very hopeful to start the planning process for this neighborhood within the next 2 to 3 months. We expect it would take a year, a little over, to go through that neighborhood planning process. That process will determine the future land uses here. I can't tell you if it's going to be residential or where the residential. I can't tell you where the industrial or where the parks are going to go at this time. That's what this neighborhood planning process is going to be. So the direct answer to your question, Amy, is yes, this is going to be developed. There's not any question about it. The city has identified this future neighborhood long time before Brad and I came on staff, and we've already initiated the process to determine what this future neighborhood would look like. So, staff has been working very diligently for the last 2 months and working closely with Hera and Robin to define how this process will look in terms of getting us from a quarry to a neighborhood. And that's a process we're all going to have to continue to work on. But staff has been working really diligently to develop a set of conditions for this conditional use. It's very extensive and hopefully will address any concerns when it comes to traffic or operations. But the main thing that I do want to just point out is this conditional use, as Robin noted, ends on December 31st, 2028. And what that means is that's after we have a new future land use, we have a new future design for the future neighborhood. That's when we expect that Robin and his team come back to the city with these future development plans that are going to show us things like roads and building pads and where utilities are going to come through, and take us to that next step of urban development. So that's kind of a real high level, and there's a lot in there, but that's kind of the real high level.
Do you want to give us your staff report then?
Yeah, I kind of touched on some of this stuff. I talked about the conditional use permit. This is for non-metallic mineral extraction on lands owned by Fitchburg Hills. This is a greenfield site. We talked about the quarries in the neighboring properties. The applicant has conducted personal and public meetings to inform neighbors, and I've been told that those were generally positive reactions. The next part of my memo here, my staff report, goes through specifically the operations. One thing that I want it to be very clear here is that the primary operations of this site is to take out the stone. There's no asphalt batching, no concrete, making concrete. The primary and really central purpose is to get out the existing stone that's here. So we talked a little bit about that under operations. The hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 6 p.m., no Sundays and holidays. Saturdays, only 10 Saturdays per year, and 7:30 to 2 p.m. There's some special hours for blasting, 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'm talking about some of the equipment that would be used, the number of employees, 2 to 5 employees for site work, drilling, crushing, stockpiling materials, loading and hauling, 2 employees plus any trucks that are loading. We will still need to work with the applicant on the landscaping of the berms. I've requested that the applicant provide us a landscape plan to show what was going to be planted and where for our approval. Site access, this is pretty important. There is only one site access, and that's at the new Commerce Park intersection there on Lacey. There will be an asphalt pavement, 200-foot haul road that will lead into the site from that intersection. That's the only entrance and exit to this site. And then talk a little bit about the traffic and haul roads. We're talking about 35 trucks both ways, so it's about 7 trucks per hour. Primarily, we've identified the Commerce Park Drive to McKee as the primary, and then at peak hours coming east on Lacey and then up north onto Seminole and then up to McKee. Once again, I've hit on this for the project duration, December 31st, 2028. And at that point, if the operations, if the applicant still wishes or needs to continue under this conditional use, they'll have to return to Ag and Rural, your committee, then also Plan Commission for a new approval. So, as I talked about, the planning staff is proceeding with the South Stoner Neighborhood Plan, as we see there in the orange. We don't know exactly what those future land use types, residential, commercial, industrial, we don't know what those are going to be at this particular point. That is something that will be determined through the planning process for the South Stoner Neighborhood Plan. Once that planning process is completed, then, and council, we hope that council will approve our South Stoner Neighborhood Plan, and then it becomes part of our comprehensive plan for the city and finalizes the approval of the future land uses. I'm also just providing some background of some codes that we fall under, just for your information. But in summary, staff does recommend approval of this conditional use permit with a total of 50 conditions. I'm open to address any specific questions about any of those conditions.
Okay, we have a couple people who would like to speak also, so let's do that at this point. Or perhaps, no, one person would like to speak. Leslie Jorgensen, 2325 South Seminole Highway, would like to speak.
Let her come up here.
Sure.
Thank you.
In opposition.
Ben, why don't you just come up
All
and
right.
Sarah, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. As said, I'm Leslie Jorgensen. I live at the end of Seminole Highway where it intersects with Wayland Road. I'm the last house on Seminole Highway, just to give you an idea of what we deal with out there in the traffic and the trucks and such. I'm opposed to this conditional use permit in Fitchburg for the Fitchburg Hills and Yahara materials. As stated earlier, there are currently 4 quarries within a mile of this proposed quarry. You have Hammersley across Lacey Road, Hammersley next door, which is currently owned by Fitchburg Minerals, Payne and Dolan just west of Commerce Parkway, and Wingra Stone on the west side of Arona Road. Right now, Fitchburg is known as a biking community, biking city, but apparently only if you stay on the bike paths. Because the truck traffic that comes with these quarries is dangerous to those bikers that are trying to head south, which now seems to change because I hear they're not going to go south on Seminole Highway now, where there are many bikers that come by my house on the road, because those are those racing bikers. They don't want to be on the path across from my house because it's too dangerous for those young families with their little kids going up and down the path. You know, the bikers, the real heavy-duty bikers, don't want to be on that path. It's too dangerous. According to the CUP application, all the trucks are going to be going 18151 via the Commerce Park Drive. What I've heard is a little different now from what was written in the CUP. They did not talk at all in the CUP about the traffic going south. The first I've heard of any traffic and which way it's going when it heads south is tonight. It tells you where it's going if it goes north. It tells you where it's going if it goes west, up to over to 151. But today, how come that wasn't put in the CUP originally? How did that just come up? Wait, we got to go south now. How are we getting south? I don't think, even though being on Seminole Highway, I don't want those trucks down by me. It's just terrible having to live where we do in the summer. I have to wear earplugs when I go out in my garden every day in the summer because we've got so many trucks coming south from these current 4 quarries. And now we're going to add a 5th? I just don't think it's fair to the people that live in Fitchburg. And now they're saying they're going east on Lacey. I think that's the worst idea. I mean, how many people live there? We're just a small rural community, or rural residential, where we live down at the end of Seminole. You're going to run those trucks down Lacey Road, which Lacey Road is horrible right now. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in 6 months after they start. And you're going to have a lot of angry people in this room next time when all these people live with this traffic that's going to be coming by Lacey Road. I just think we need to find another route. Does it have to come down by me? I don't think it does. I think if they want to be in our community, they can shoot all the way up to over to 51. If they want to go south, go down 151 out to Verona, hop on M and cut over to Oregon that way. I don't think we should send them down Lacey Road at all. I think it's a big mistake. And I just find it kind of aggravating that nothing was said about how they're heading south until right now. This should be in the CUP. In the CUP says that they're going north, which route they're going. Never once did they bring that up. Item number 24 on the staff recommendations states all trucks must have muffler systems that meet industry standards. Does this include the subcontracted trucks that are hauling for Yahara materials, the trucks that actually affect the citizens, or just the trucks that are working in the pit? Item number 26 on the staff recommendation says engine braking is prohibited for vehicles entering, leaving, or while on site. Why is this prohibited just at their location? Why isn't it prohibited throughout Fitchburg? This is exactly the problem we have with trucks in our rural residential neighborhood. I contacted the city 2 years ago about getting a no engine braking sign put up in our neighborhood and was told they only install those signs on the entrances to the city. I think it's time to rethink that those of us who have to deal with these Stone Company subcontracting truckers that make it miserable to be outside in our homes during the summer need to be dealt with. One day last summer, I counted 17 trucks come by my house in 1 hour. And that doesn't mean one every 3.5 minutes. There were 5 trucks together coming down, and it's not just downshifting. 5 trucks downshifting together is horrible to listen to. And I know that's well over the decibel level that's allowed in Fitchburg. And I'll tell you, I've got a tape of a truck coming down. I can hear them at my location. I hear them coming down. They just make it down to Muchler Road, and I hear them downshifting in my front yard. And when they get next to my corner, it's horrendous. I'm going to get a decibel meter, because if this keeps up, someone's going to have to oversee these trucks coming through our area. I don't think people that don't deal with this every day in their home understand what it's really like. I know we want to be good, business people here and let people make money, and I understand that, but at whose expense? How much of this money is staying in Fitchburg? We've got a company that gets to make all this money on stone at the expense of my neighbor, myself, and now you're going to put it into the whole Lacey Road. You're going to hear some really angry people. I think another route, get over to 151 and stay there. Don't be jumping down Lacey Road. Don't be coming down, If we have to make so many things, maybe this isn't the sort of business we need in that plot of land. We could do something else with that. And because eventually we're going to have all those houses there, So Yahara may think that their 68 truck trips a day are not a big deal, but that's in addition to the trucks that are already hauling in Fitchburg. In closing, I'd just like to say, please remember the residents of Fitchburg and what we have to deal with so these companies can make money, you know, in Fitchburg. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate it. Dan Jorgensen, registered only in opposition. Dan, did you want to speak? Mary Ann Berger, 2350 Fitchburg Road, would like to speak in opposition.
Thank you. I've lived in Fitchburg for 50 years, and in 2014, we did oppose Yahara Materials going on Grandview Road. This is not, Mark, a NIMBY situation. What I'm speaking to today is what the effect is on all of the residents of Fitchburg. Primarily, when the assessed values of the people who live directly on Lacey Road and Fitch-Rona are downgraded because of this quarry going in, both the school districts and the city will have to recoup their monies in some way. And where do you suppose that will be? By raising the mill rate on all of us. Secondly, we are already, at this time, widening West Lacey Road with taxpayer funds. Yahara Materials is proposing to lease agricultural land for 5 years. Though they will be profiting, as Leslie said, from land in our city during this time, they will not be directly paying any taxes. They will just be taking money out of the city. Though the landowner who has the property now will be responsible for the change from agriculture to manufacturing assessment, that small change won't be enough to cover the impact of the proposed quarry on city roads. Our city roads are not, at this time, capable of handling the volume and weight of truck traffic. When the roads have deteriorated both during and after Yahara would use them, who do you suppose will be assessed for paying for the repair or replacements? Not Yahara, the taxpayers of Fitchburg. Now, as Leslie said, there are already 4 separate quarries in the vicinity of the proposed one. Every one of those was located well before the development of the neighborhoods. Why would any of us in this time propose to site a quarry near existing neighborhoods, a technology park, or even the proposed college sports center that Edgewood would be putting in? It doesn't make any sense. Now, I, like most residents, am very proud to live in Fitchburg for the 50 years we've been here. We became a city when nobody else thought that we could possibly do that. We value the rural areas located within our city. With continued good planning, these areas will afford all of us the calm and beauty so many other cities have lost. Fitchburg became an early leader in recycling. We're a bike-friendly city, and we've been recognized as both a tree city and a bird city. But with a quarry, there will be no calm. The beauty will be gone when the hillside and trees are destroyed, the roads congested with dump trucks. The bicyclists who have enjoyed our city and bring money into our city will avoid this area because of the inherent danger. This proposed quarry would destroy what we've achieved and contradict future planning. Is this proposed quarry really a good trade-off for what we now enjoy? Most residents would say no. At the same time, I do believe that a landowner has the right to develop his land within guidelines. However, those rights to do that end when it negatively impacts the rights of other residents in the city. Yahara Materials does not bring a tax-paying type of business we want to continue to attract to this part of the city. We want the technology, we want the businesses, we want the things that bring us a quality of life. The only ones who would benefit from this proposed quarry, the original landowner, and now the present landowner, Fitchburg Hills LLC, and Yahara Materials. Fitchburg Hills LLC was created shortly before Yahara Materials applied for the conditional use permit. They share the same address and are one and the same. Should all city residents be negatively impacted for longer than the proposed 5 years for the benefit of a company based outside of Fitchburg? Most residents would say no. And I'm hoping that you, the appointed citizens and alder people, will recognize the impact, the negative impact that placing another quarry in our city will have on all residents. It is not a NIMBY situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Let's go to other questions from anyone on the committee with regard to the staff report or anything else that you'd like to get addressed.
I have one question about Payne and Dolan. Is that still Payne and Dolan, or is that also owned by Walbeck? Is that also owned by Walbeck?
Walbeck owns Payne and Dolan.
And the Hammersmith Quarry?
Yes.
And Fitchburg Minerals
Yeah,
is a Wallback company too.
all of them.
They're all, yeah.
And so you were saying you work with them, though?
Pardon me?
You were saying earlier that you work with them on change?
Yeah, part of the comprehensive plan update.
Probably want to grab the microphone
Sure.
just so people listening on TV can hear.
Yeah, part of the comprehensive plan update, when that was discussed, just like they did with Sub-Zero when the areas over there, the people that own the land were involved in the decisions that were being made on it. So yeah, to answer your question, Walbeck would be involved in it, and Yahara Materials would be involved in it, along with the city of Fitchburg in planning it.
I don't think that answers his question. He's wondering who owns the land.
Pardon me?
He asked who owns it.
Which
Isn't that
Yeah.
your question?
Yeah.
Who owns Payne and Dolan,
Yeah.
Wallback?
Walbeck does. That, yeah,
Yeah,
Walbeck owns it.
yeah.
Walbeck owns all of it.
Yeah,
They
that's
own
what I
all of the
understood.
land.
That's why I
Well,
understood before coming up here.
Sorry.
I have a question with regards to the timeline of this. Is it reasonable or rational to assume that that size of a site could be blasted and excavated and removed to what would be the proposed grade for a development in a 5-year period, or shouldn't it be much longer? I mean, there's 3 other sites that.
Our site, we are talking about our site, and what we figure, there's X amount of tons to go off. The balance of it will stay on site for the streets and the utilities and backfilling of all the buildings that are going to building. So yeah, it's a reasonable time for us to get in excess what we need, and then once the site development starts, that stuff would, the bulk of that would stay.
Could you kind of explain what's happening with the quarry wall that will be left? Because I'm just trying to understand, as this site backs up to Payne and Dolan's site, they have a wall, you have a wall, what's in between? Doesn't it all kind of end up at the same grade? at
That's
the
what's
end of
gonna
this?
happen, correct,
Okay,
correct.
so how how is that going to happen? They've got a setback that they're operating within, so do you.
What, we have other quarries that we have other quarry operators, same situation. What we do is you sit down and you talk and you make an agreement and you take it out of there.
Okay.
That's pretty, standard for both parties.
And where are you with getting that agreement in place?
We don't have it in place yet, just on account of that'll probably come into place more when we get into the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood, when we know what that is gonna entail. So I would certainly suspect that, once we get more into that, we will have that in place.
Randy?
We mentioned earlier about the reason you're using Lacey Road. Maybe you can go back to that picture again, because you have to turn right versus Commerce.
One of the slides?
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Or maybe-
Can you
I don't know.
grab that,
Yeah.
maybe, Dustin?
I'll do that.
I'm gonna pull off.
I had questioned Commerce versus Seminole Highway to go to the north, and you said you had to go to the right on Lacey, and I understood that, but I don't. And then you're taking traffic to the east on Lacey over to Fish Hatchery. I can tell you right now, Seminole Forest residents, there's a lot of residents in Seminole Forest. Lacey Heights, they have all reached out to me, and they're not happy. And I suspect on council night, they'll be here. I don't understand why you couldn't put a four-way stop in at Lacey and Commerce and direct all that traffic up Commerce. You take it to McKee, where there is no residence other than houses back to McKee. Then you take it to the left. If you want to go south in Fish Hatchery, you take it in that direction. I mean, all of these homes that are along Lacey, their front yards are on Lacey, whereas at least on McKee, they're backyards with berms and fences. I'm frustrated as some of the other residents that are here as far as the routes that you've proposed to take all of those dump trucks. I have some concern.
Another real issue with these conditional use permits is we put these parameters on them and we say, yeah, there's only 35 trucks one way a day or 70 total, and then, who's monitoring that? It's like we come in and we approve these things and, where's the follow-up? So I guess I'm a little guarded too, in this traffic situation. I mean, I'm hearing everyone, and I guess I have empathy for we need to talk about this further. We're not ready to move on this today, I don't think, by any means.
I mean, Deanna, is that unreasonable to ask Public Works why you couldn't put a four-way stop in and take things up Commerce? I mean, we put four-way stops in anywhere we want. I mean, what's...
If I could,
Sure.
I don't know if Deanna was involved.
I was not involved in the traffic discussions,
When this first started and the design of Lacey Road was put in, we brought this up and we asked about a stoplight there.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Woodard actually made the comment and said, it doesn't warrant a stoplight there yet. So.
I hear this all the time throughout neighborhoods when there's traffic issues, and I don't know what warrants it anymore. It's extremely frustrating. I keep hearing that.
Well, four-way stop versus a stoplight are two totally different things, too.
Exactly. They are. But I hear this all the time because of traffic on Osmond. Said, why can't we put another stop sign there to mitigate some of that issue? Oh, it doesn't warrant it. I keep hearing this from city, so it's extremely frustrating. I'm not directing at you, I'm directing at city.
Yeah.
We're designing Lacey Road. We're designing a roundabout at Lacey and Seminole. I would think we'd have some say in where we want a stop sign, other than somebody says it warrants it. So
you're proposing a four-way stop at Commerce and Lacey?
Yeah.
And then
direct it all up to Commerce and then let it go out.
We're fine with that.
I just think it's more palatable to all those neighbors. I'm telling you right now, Lacey and Seminole Heights and the new subdivision, they're gonna be council night. They're gonna be here, and they're gonna be breathing down my throat saying, what are you doing? You represent us. And this is in my district, and Jim Wheeler. Don't you agree? Because I can assure you over there, these people are smart. They're gonna be putting on a campaign as well. And so, you're not even gonna have Jim Wheeler and myself saying no. You're gonna have every other council member, especially in District 2. District 3, what's up to that?
Randy, how would you address the question of traffic going east on Lacey to get to Fish Hatchery to go south?
I would say take it up Commerce to McKee and then down Fish Hatchery, because Fish Hatchery is a county road, as you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Then they
think,
keep it all on county roads.
yeah,
other
well,
than-
McKee, I don't know how much of it's a county road anymore, but I mean, when you have trucks, dump trucks going past on Lacey Road, we all know how many residents live on Lacey Road. There's gonna be an issue. There's gonna be an issue.
Well, especially when the first engine brake comes on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
sounds
That might even happen on McKee Road too,
Well,
but I
we-
mean, you know, but
I can talk to Leslie's, argument about, we've seen them coming down Seminole where it was, speed limit was 50, and some of the more mature, I shouldn't say age or anything, drivers would let off up by our farm, and then they'd just coast by and you wouldn't hardly hear them. And then I'd see two trucks going empty to the south, and they're almost tailgating each other, and they're using their engine brake. And they don't even have a load on it. I think it's an individual thing for the driver. And the other thing is, if we propose engine brakes, then we're gonna have to have policing.
I know an inspector.
And
Well, you
it's
pull
a hard
few
thing to
over
do
and
because,
ticket them, the word's gonna get around.
yeah,
So, but, I mean, is that something that we can do? Can we post Seminole Highway, post something with regard to engine braking on Seminole Highway? And I do like the idea of the four-way stop to a Commerce.
we take it.
Keep it on Commerce.
I mean, I understand the importance of this being developed, I'm for that. I mean, this area as far as residential.
Yeah, but not as a quarry.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying, if you're gonna do it as a quarry, if you're gonna move this through, it should not be on Seminole or Lacey. You need to take it through Commerce, where it's already an industrial area.
I want to add one thing. I love the Commerce Park route at east on McKee. That's the only way throughout a 10-mile or more radius to cross the Badger State Trail without
Right.
impacting bike traffic. They go over the road now instead of along the road.
and the one thing about peak hours, Sub-Zero and both, what are their peak hours? Because when they let out, when they start at like 3, 4 in the morning and let out in the middle of the afternoon before what you normally would think would be peak hours, there's a lot of traffic comes out at that time. And then after that would be more the rush hour traffic or people going home from working in Madison. If a four-way stop there, we're happy with that.
Item 51 on the.
And-
That's not, unfortunately, that is not something that I can add
And
on
the,
there.
As far as the Jake breaks, we have numerous sites now that we have them posted that, hey, they're not to be used. So that's a, when you hear about it, we patrol that ourselves. I mean,
But that,
I,
can you want to listen to this, Jake breaking? I mean, seriously, can I have one moment just so you can hear what I hear in my front yard? This is unbelievable. And I'm gonna tell you, this starts 3/4 of a mile away from my house. Hold on here. Here we go. This is just my phone. Just
Coming down Whalen.
3/4 of a mile from my house. You can hear it already.
Clearly that's
I
an
just
issue
want-
that needs to be addressed.
This is unbelievable in my front yard. This way. Half a mile from my house. Half a mile from my house. It just makes me angry that I have to live this way. So he can make money. Not him
Not him,
personally.
it's somebody else. Yeah.
His company can make money. And this is where he crosses the bike path. There's a bicyclist trying to cross right now when they get to the bike path. Oh, I finally can see him. This way. That's before they make it to Seminole. They're coming down Wayland. Now he's making the turn. Watch the black smoke come pouring out of this thing. There's the bike path and the bicyclist. Here he comes, up Seminole. Look at that black smoke. Can you all see it from far away? That's what I have to smell in my front yard. Multiply that by 17 in 1 hour. Now, I'm not seen every truck driver that said this.
Seems like
I contacted the company, they apologized. I've got the name right on this on the truck. My
Yeah,
point is,
there are a few that
there are,
violate engine brake.
yes,
You know, the majority, I must admit, you know, they know how to take, they probably own their own trucks and they know how to take care of them.
there's
And
also
then
some
there's a few
fantastic
that
ones doing
are
it the
just
right
having
way.
fun with the,
and I will admit, talking to Payne and Dolan, I talked to some men up there, and I've driven up there, followed trucks right into their thing saying, you guys gotta stop this.
Oh.
It's miserable living out there in the summer. Anyway, Payne and Dolan have always been very kind, the people that work up there, and they say, we don't want those guys working for us. And they actually talk to them, and I have actually documented them coming back down, and they're as quiet as a mouse. There are so many trucks that are quiet, but it's these guys that make living out there miserable because they think they get to be a hot dog. Oh, listen, I'm driving this big truck. But this exhaust is unbelievable, this black smoke. Now, how are you gonna control that? How are you gonna control what taking certain roads? Who's gonna, I mean, am I gonna have to sit in my front yard and say, oh, I'm gonna have to follow that guy, is he going up to Payne and Dolan, or is he going over to? I followed a truck there on Wayland Road and I couldn't catch up to him, and I was going 75 miles an hour. He was an unloaded truck, of course, but 75 miles an hour going east on Wayland. Because I wanted to see what the hell is going on. I followed him all the way down to Payne and Dolan's spot down in Brooklyn. Because I thought, where are all these trucks going? How can they just move stuff back and forth. That's why we certainly cannot have any movement of stone in and out of this place.
That is one of the
You know?
conditions.
Yeah. But is this really the place we want, a stone yard? You know, we're in the middle of town now. This is ridiculous.
Okay, other discussion on this topic? This will be a plan commission tonight at 6:30 as well. So, you know, I think this body really needs to look at this with regard to its impact on agriculture. In light of the fact that this is a site that is planned to be, it's in the long-term development plan anyhow, so this is not a piece that's coming out of agriculture that otherwise would not be. So I think, you know, we've got two concerns here, the impact on agriculture and the impact on people living in the rural area. And those are the things that we need to factor into whatever our decision-making process is tonight. There are a lot of details, I think, with regard to the type of fencing being used, the agreement with Payne and Dolan. There are a number of things that, you know, I think we need to address at Plan Commission tonight, too, that we don't necessarily need to get into that nitty-gritty here unless someone would like to, but we need to just figure out what we're going to do moving forward with this with regard to ag in mind and the rural residents that are affected by it.
We will lose that farmland. Either way, we're gonna lose the farmland. How many years will you guys keep it in agricultural farmland use, before you quarry it off?
Say that again?
How many years will you continue agricultural crops on it until you begin your quarrying process?
Till we begin our process, well, once we begin it, we'll probably take half of it out,
Okay,
you know, right away,
okay.
once we start. Because we have to build,
Yep.
you know, the berms, the ponds, strip the topsoil, so it would be probably a minimum of half of it we'd take out right away.
And on the yellow map that was there, that does include the land to the south of the land that you now have, am I correct?
I don't know if I understand what you're asking.
Well, there was a yellow map that showed the Wolf property.
No, that has nothing to do,
On the yellow map was the yellow orangish colored.
That was my future
Okay.
land use.
And
That was
that
my,
did include the Wolf property.
it does,
I
most of
thought
it.
it did.
No, that did not go all the way to Grandview, though.
It does not
No,
go.
But the Wolf property goes up to that section line.
Yeah.
I'm going here. So I think let me,
the Wolf property.
that's the Wolf property, and this one's the Wolf property. So
Yep.
it's-
So it does include that.
The neighborhood
The
plan.
north half of it.
Of the Stoner Prairie, South Stoner neighborhood plan, yes.
Was that get into Herfel's property too?
I don't believe so.
I mean, on the east?
I don't know
Southeast.
Herfel's
No, it doesn't.
property.
No, it doesn't.
Whatever is in orange there.
That, whatever is in the orange, yellow kind of color is what is in our neighborhood plan that
So
we are
That
starting.
does not include the Wolf property.
Part
The,
of it does.
the northern
yes.
part of the Wolf property.
Yes, part of it does.
Okay.
But not the part that comes.
But not the part that goes down to Grandview. Here's Grandview.
That would, it includes the north part of the Wolf property. I thought it did, but I wasn't sure.
Well, that would be, Joseph Holt's property on the southeast part that comes down.
Okay. So we're gonna lose some of that, ag land, fairly quickly, depending on,
Just on the Richardson site is all you're gonna lose. That's all that we're talking about as far as you hear us talking about.
The 235 acres, is that what you're talking about? Or no, yours was 87. You're only gonna be working on the 87.
Ours is just under 100 acres.
Yes, so the 235 acres is the entire South Stoner neighborhood plan. And what we're talking today with Yahara is these 5 parcels for, under this conditional use permit. So it's
Yeah, that
these,
shows 87.3 acres on this one.
killable land, probably.
Okay.
But under ag, quarrying
is an allowable conditional
allowable under a
use.
conditional use person.
By state law and by our local ordinance. Non-metallic mineral quarrying is an allowable conditional use. So-
Sounds like the real takeaway is just the traffic. We need to figure out.
I think that, I agree with you, Amy, that traffic is the problem, and I really support the taking it up Commerce Drive. And if we have, City of Fitchburg has been very hesitant to use any stop signs, and I've been told the same things.
Yes, here we go again,
We've
yeah.
been told the same things on Burn Road.
Yep, the railroad crossing.
It's not, there's not enough car traffic. Once we peel somebody out of the train,
Well, we found
then
that
we'll maybe have a different story. But I see nothing wrong with putting a stop sign or lights or whatever the Public Works deems appropriately. But I think you have to take that up Commerce Drive. And I know it's a little, I'm concerned about that traffic. I own a dump truck. I have a trucking business. I don't like taking Lacey Road now because of the residential. There's too many driveways. In fact, I don't buy stone from Hammersley or from that area because of the traffic. Because I will drive twice as far to a rural quarry just so I don't have to deal with the traffic or cause any issues to any of the neighbors here. And I respect that. But I'm only one guy. So, but if we didn't ever allow quarries, we all would have mud driveways.
Are we in general agreement that we would prefer to see Public Works take up this issue of putting in a 4-way stop? And that we would prefer that all the traffic going in and out of here utilize Commerce Park Drive up to,
And we're fine.
up to PD in whatever direction it's going on.
We're
on
fine
PD.
going straight across.
I
Okay.
think so, yeah.
Okay, well, I of course cannot tell you
Right.
that will work.
No, but that's what we do here. We need to make these recommendations for not just, to other city departments as well as as, the conditions that affect the applicant.
Our recommendation goes to plan commission and council, so we need to state what we feel is our appropriate recommendation coming from this body.
And then I think the other thing that we talked about was we would like to see signs posted on Seminole Highway with regard to engine braking.
And there may be, you'll have to check on that, Ed, or Deanna. They may have to be posted at the city limits, because most, as I drive, most,
Where's the
Times-
city limits though?
they're
Good
posted.
question.
Fitchburg is the city.
Madison?
They're posted at the city, at the entrance to the city. And that may be a law or a code, so we'll have to check on it. I don't know the answer to that.
How are you moving this forward? Without a recommendation, or are you voting?
Are you gonna vote to postpone?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
We don't have a motion, so if we can get a motion on the floor, we could determine whether we're gonna move this forward. I mean, this needs to be addressed. There's gonna be a public hearing, at Planning Commission tonight. I don't know whether we need to continue to address this. To me, it feels like we don't. And I don't know whether Planning Commission will have enough, to consider approving this tonight.
We can move it forward without a recommendation to to plan, or to council, I should say. I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve with conditions, and then we can discuss it from there.
Okay.
I think we need to send a recommendation, either up or down, or what the conditions are from this body.
All right, so are you moving approval with the conditions that staff has laid out, of which there are 50?
Right,
And
and
then
adding,
additional?
our recommendation is a stop sign at, and the traffic pattern goes north on Commerce to stay out of the neighborhoods.
Nothing in the stop light? Stop sign, right? Four-way stop sign, not stoplight.
Whichever public works,
Yeah.
whichever public works, and your materials is willing to pay for. And there's a big difference between lights and signs.
Cost-wise.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? George?
And when would that intersection, when is that proposed to be redone? In Commerce and Lacey?
This year?
Yeah.
I know they're gonna start like what, after the school is out and then do the roundabout and Lacey all the way to,
But it will be this year, it'll be this summer.
so that'll be.
So if we were gonna do it, now is the time to do it.
All right, any further questions?
I just want clarification on that for the
Okay.
public too.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Is this unanimous? I didn't hear a no? Okay. I heard some people not vote one way or the other.
I wasn't prepared then.
Yeah.
I needed more time.
Do you want to abstain?
Do you want to abstain?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to abstain?
I'll stay.
Okay, George?
I want her to be one.
Thanks, George. We roll together.
Nice backbone there, George.
Okay.
Yeah, I know where you live.
All right, well, this will be at Planning Commission at 6:30 tonight. There'll be a public hearing tonight, and I would imagine there'll be a lengthy discussion on this there as well. Thanks for coming, everyone who's come up with this thing.
I hope that you look at it as a big picture, not just that intersection. It's business itself. Is that what we want in Fitchburg? I cannot believe that after we select and have the kinds of business in that area, that you would cite a quarry. Just does not make sense.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. which is
Diana, I've lost my screen, so how do I get back?
Shake your mouse around.
Shit.
item 5B.
Maybe it went to sleep.
Is a pre-application conference, Apple Garden.
Oh, there it
Those fellows here.
Oh,
Yes,
great.
young man.
Thank you.
Got the magic.
Right.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Yep. There's a reason why we pair a younger one next to an older one.
There you go. I felt that.
Pre-application conference for Apple Garden. We do not have a staff report on this, and I think you're representing Apple Garden, so why don't you go ahead and give us a report on what you got.
Great.
I do have, let me get that.
No, I'm sorry, this is David Wiles, 3850 Pheasant Point Court, Verona.
So I am the leaseholder. Betty Forrest is the widow who lives in the log home on the property, and
So that
her
would be up
family
here.
trust owns the 103-acre parcel. So in discussions with Deanna earlier, am trying to encourage the business, the pick your own apples and pumpkins and all that. And hopefully everybody's been there. And she suggested that it should have a conditional use permit. I believe it's called
A rural event
Rural Event
venue.
Venue. Because it's not a dairy farm or a grain farm. It does have the public on site for pick your own, and we do serve food, and we have a Class A alcohol license. We're not intending to do weddings or any of the other, there's another business that does that kind of thing. But we do see value for the customers that come to the farm to get some food and that kind of thing. So our intent is to rezone for conditional use permit. It's about a 4.5 acre, that's my rough estimate, has not been surveyed yet, around the buildings. And then the rest would remain ag exclusive, AX. In that discussion, the family trust would like to continue beyond Betty's lifetime to preserve it as a farm. And so we've talked about whether a land trust or somebody might purchase the land to keep it in ag longer term. And in that case, the question came up of whether to carve out her home lot as rural residential. I proposed a wedge, not the entire yellow line, but if you created another, I don't know what you would call it, but more of a parallelogram up to the Wayland line. And Deanna came back with this purple
Yeah,
line.
okay.
In talking with Betty since that discussion, she had comments from Chris, the assessor,
Yes.
that there would be, I was informed that there would not be any difference in taxes, just changing from ag to rural residential. And she got information that it would, in fact, change the taxes. So we
Substantially.
would withdraw that.
Okay.
So that would be still considered a homestead on the ag exclusive property, because they're not interested in paying more taxes. And if at some point the family trust wants to sell it to another land trust, they can deal with that at that point.
Okay, that's good to know.
But I didn't want to proceed with this CUP.
Very good choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's no immediate plans for any other houses or, anything else. And what I'm concerned with is basically all that lower 80-acre plus, even the trees up on Wayland, they'll likely not be there forever. So we won't replace those.
You guys have the people that come to the site for events.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to not restrict yourself.
Yeah.
If you wanted to have a wedding there,
Yeah.
I don't see an issue with that at all.
Well, and that's where this discussion came up, because
I
we're
think you're
looking at
restricting yourself if you do that.
expanding
Well,
Yeah, I don't
some
want
of the.
anything that says I can't do it, but I don't have an intent to do it.
Right,
Exactly.
but that's why I suggested going through this process to rezone this piece into small lot agriculture.
Yeah.
And then you can come forward with the conditional use for rural residential. I mean, for rural event venue.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse the slip, yeah.
Now, but my question was, as the people who are coming there they are, if you're doing pick your own, they are in that other area that's out
Yeah,
further.
sure.
So is that going to be an issue? Should your
Not,
small agriculture,
No, that would be the whole property.
well, no, but what I'm saying is we have to make sure that you don't restrict
I see what you're saying.
you from allowing those people to go out on, with the, I can't remember the name of the horses, but,
Oh, right, yeah.
you know,
Well-
out to the orchard to
Orchard.
pick their own.
Yeah, I do see where, I do see where you're going. Of course, you can do events in agriculture, right? But I think when we're talking about wedding events, food,
facilities,
yeah, the food, the service, the liquor service, that would have to stay in that farmstead, right? Just rezoning that part for small lot lake and then doing the rural event venue, that would, all that means is that intense stuff is going to have to stay on that smaller lot.
And I
Really, you wouldn't be able to have the wedding out in the orchard, right? Yeah. Hey.
That was my question.
Well, then maybe you do want to go
Not
and.
build a facility
No,
out
no,
there.
but my question is,
Yeah.
are you restricting being able to allow the people to go out?
No.
That would end the business.
As long as, yeah, as long as Adam said, the foot traffic can extend out in there,
yeah.
and we're not restricting that. That was my only concern.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I just
Yeah.
don't wanna
Right.
see you guys be restricted by that, because you have a great facility, so.
So if I may, and I apologize, I understand that we come from totally different perspectives in regards to event situations, right? From a fire department perspective, you're in a rural area. It takes longer for us to get there. If there were to be a fire, there's likely to be more death because of the fact that the buildings are not set up for public assembly. I'm here to tell you this and share this with you, not because of the fact that I want to hide behind an email. I'd rather tell you face to face why it's important to us. Because we've seen how when fire prevention codes are not followed, people do get injured as a result of it. Barns are not built for public assembly. They're not built for large weddings. I'm not stopping anybody who wants to have a family wedding at their family farm. That's not what I'm stopping. I'm saying as soon as you're starting to make money off the general public because you're renting out your barn, that then becomes a public assembly building that does require us to have some input as far as what goes on there. There's a lot of people that don't even think about what it takes for us to even get to the property in the way of response. Then from the way of what is the facility going to be able to accommodate as far as parking and access, that sometimes prevents us from getting close to it. One of the things that I would just highly recommend, and I know that this isn't necessarily the place for approvals or anything like that from my perspective or events that are going to take place, I just want you to be fully aware of the fact that there's a reason why the public assembly and fire code exists. It's usually based on the fact that people lost lives. And I'm not here to catastrophize. I really don't want to. What I want to be able to do is just set realistic expectation as far as why that's important to us as your fire department. Watch one video, the station fire out of Rhode Island. 100 people died at the door just trying to get out. And I'll tell you, they lost half of their fire department due to psychological issues of the number of people that died, 100 people at the door just trying to get out. So I'm asking you to work with the fire department to understand why that's important so that we can set something up so that your response is addressed. Because even though the Apple Garden, great place, it's been a staple in the Fitchburg community for a while. We want to maintain that. We just want to make sure that we're doing it right, we're doing it safe. So that the people that come into your businesses are well represented in their safety. That's all I'm asking. So when I create opposition to things like wedding barns, it's not because I want to be a ruler or enforcer. It's because of the fact that I have some experience in why that has gone wrong in the past. And that's all I'm saying. So I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you and do it face to face so you can see the sincerity behind my plea. It's very important to me that we represent the best interest of not only you, the property owner, either the occupant or the general public who's frequenting that establishment, and quite frankly, my own firefighters. I have to keep them in mind. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I saw that it was on the agenda, so I'm glad that I was able to sit in, and I appreciate your attention.
Well, thanks for coming, I appreciate it. I mean, what can you recommend at this point that we should be considering when we're talking about?
Just say that I believe they worked for you. They were fire department people, came through and did an inspection of access and things like that. They were very happy with that, and that was last fall.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of the fact that your conditional use was one that didn't necessarily represent that of public assembly in the way of a major group setting, I mean, it truly is. You do have a lot of people there, but we've also taken into consideration the exits, the things that go into planning an appropriate event at an appropriate venue. So I think there's a lot of things that you've already got put into place to include parking and things that other family farms don't necessarily consider. So these are things that we absolutely, you've involved the fire department in coming down there. You've addressed the overall importance of identifying that wedding barns can have some significant issues. So those are things that we absolutely want to maintain some degree of contact about because of the fact that it is important that we share those concerns.
So your concern is with larger gatherings, whether there should be some restrictions that we should consider within this conditional use as to what can and cannot be done.
So the moment that you want to make this a business, right? If people want to make this a business, you can see what Four Winds Farm did. They have a sprinkler system in that building that allows people to get out. It's not going to extinguish the fire, but it's going to allow people to get out, right? So it gives us enough time to get on scene and to extinguish the fire. But the fire protection system that's in there, the fact that its electrical system has been brought up to code, and the fact that they have hardened parking that is accessible around that entire structure is a good example of how we can address a wedding barn that has been built into a business. I mean, if we were to do something from a wedding perspective in any hotel or any other venue around the city, we would be enforcing the fire code because there's an occupancy concern. So those are things that I just wanted to bring up, and I know that we're cutting it close on your time, so I apologize for that.
And I'm not requesting to do a business as Four Wind Farms, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
So,
but you can see
I
what
am trying to continue to preserve this business and keep it growing.
So your plan is to continue to operate the business as is?
Yeah, and I'd like to do events, but we need to put some boundaries as what those events are, and there's standard codes out there of this is a building space, it has to have access, and it can only have a capacity of X number of people.
Yeah.
That's pretty normal.
And that thought about in advance and something that we can pre-plan.
Fire sprinkler system in a barn will be cost prohibitive.
No, I get that.
So,
Do you have a commercial kitchen there?
we're planning to put that in. Right now, there is no septic, so we're putting the septic in to have a bathroom, and then it would be a commercial kitchen. Only if you're frying and things like that. So if it's just a sink and there's no cooking, you don't need a fire system.
So there's things that we would absolutely want to be in the loop about on that. We wouldn't do anything that was outside of code, but one thing that we do want to do is to once again establish realistic expectation, realizing that it is a barn. And if something does start on fire, the likelihood of us extinguishing that is very, very small. So then we have to take a look at a number of other different things to include how are people going to get out and get out quickly, because those fires do travel. You guys have seen barn fires before. They don't stop. So I got to take that into consideration with the number of people that you have on property.
It's not a barn full of hay, but yeah.
You know what but still.
It's still a wooden building.
Yep.
So David, that would be something to work with fire department on too, and then try to incorporate, if there's going to be a request coming forward for conditional use here, what limitations do we need to put in there so that, they meet what the fire department needs to see, but, you're not gonna put in a sprinkler system, so there's a limit to what you're gonna be able to do on that site.
Exactly.
That needs to be laid out in this conditional use, it can't be wide open. But,
Right,
Yeah,
I think it already says you have to
Yeah.
have everything up to code. We're reviewing electrical and plumbing.
And our building, you'll be in contact with the buildings department.
Right.
They're very good.
I think the real issue is that Apple Garden does not have a conditional use.
I was
in
surprised.
place. I mean, we didn't even have that in our zoning
Yeah.
until very recently.
No, I've owned an orchard in
Yeah.
Middleton Cross Plains, and we had one for years.
Yeah.
We have commercial kitchen and things like
And truly, if you'd been there at the meetings,
Probably never came up and thought of it.
A couple of years ago, you would know that when we talked about the type of business that we wanted to make sure was legal, we specifically referenced Apple Garden. We're like, we need to get a conditional use in place, so that Apple Garden isn't just operating on kind of a grandfathered in type thing, so.
I roasted a couple of hogs over there, but that was all outdoors.
That's outdoors, that's right, keep it
Fire
outdoors.
suppression for that?
I like a good roasted hog.
So, I think that's the thing is, how can we get to where we need to be to make sure that the operations that you've got now, are, meet fire code and are legal under any conditional use that we
And
approve.
building codes.
I doubt that there's anyone in opposition to that in this committee, correct?
No, you may have predated that business operating the way it is may have predated some of the codes that we've come along with later.
Definitely
Yeah,
predated me.
It started in the mid-80s, I think.
Yeah, it might have been in the late 70s when Vern did that.
Late 70s, I was in my early 9s or 10s, I'm not sure. I was born in 70.
But I do remember when Vern and Betty started that.
So I guess from a rural and agricultural standpoint, the idea is we know that we represent a community that has a significant, an identity issue. We don't necessarily identify with any specific type of property. We need to be able to resemble a number of different properties and be able to respond to an all hazards community. But that doesn't mean that we can't plan for things in advance to the point where we make them as safe as possible.
Good plan.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Question I have on this is, with regard to the conditional use, is it necessary to create a separate AS lot, put the conditional use on that? Can't the conditional use just be placed on the entire property and leave the whole thing in AX without doing the land division?
Rural event venue has to be an AS. It's a conditional use in AS, not AX.
Why did we do that?
Small scale, we didn't want to develop huge stretches.
I think you probably wanted to limit and focus, because AX is preservation,
Yeah.
the focus is on preservation farmland.
And the AX has to meet the state requirements for
Yeah,
a
their
farmland
state
preservation
requirements.
ordinance.
And that was the issue.
Probably.
So we had to separate it off for that reason. So does it actually have to be a separate lot, or can it just be a separate zoning parcel?
Well, your zoning administrator does not like zoning parcels.
We've used it in the past.
I know, they're messy.
Yeah.
I'd rather not do that. The CSM is a pretty straightforward process.
So here's one issue that I would raise. I would rather see a separate zoning parcel than create an actual parcel. Because at least while that's the situation, all this property remains under the same ownership. Once you separate that off as an AS lot, that piece can be sold to someone who may want to run this business entirely differently, and the connection to the land around it could be
It's
gone.
gone.
Yeah, very, very wise.
That's.
That doesn't apply to this farm, but it could apply to other situations, absolutely.
Sure, and I guess, I mean, you're talking
Because
about.
why would you go there if you couldn't get to
Yeah.
the trees and do that?
But
But still,
still.
that's a more academic thing. Right.
Yeah, things could happen, things could change down the road.
Disagreements.
Yep.
It'll be somebody else.
And Betty probably doesn't want to see that either.
No, they're interested in preserving the whole
The thing as a whole.
operation.
So that
Yeah.
makes
Whole
the most
operation.
sense then, Ed,
Right.
to do what
But
you
let,
just suggested.
Ed, along those lines, let's just assume, or let's fantasize a little bit about if Farm Progress Days came to the southern part of the city of Fitchburg, along Hemwood State Farm is and that. How would we handle that? Would that have to be conditional use to allow that?
I'm not familiar enough to answer your question, Mark. I don't.
Something along
Just
those
an
lines?
event, any event that would
Yeah.
go across AgX?
Well, Farm Progress Days is an event that travels the state and it requires about 200-300 acres of land. And so, would those, what Mark's getting at or saying is, in order to be one of those properties that hosts the Farm Progress Days event, they have to obtain conditional use permit over their entire 200 to 300 acres. I would think yes.
Just a question.
Okay,
That's just a
well,
question.
just let me take a look here. So,
I'm more inclined to go along with you.
That might be a permit that covers that.
Yeah, he's just using that as an example, but any other event, right,
It's not-
that's going to spread across the farm.
It's a one-time.
Because I can, if I want to have a gathering of barrel racers to my property tomorrow, I'm gonna do it.
Mhm.
okay, so under AX, so the exclusive agricultural entertainment activities anticipated to have an attendance of more than 500 persons at any one time during the day, that would be a conditional use under.
Okay.
So I think that's where that farm event thing would
To
be.
have the event, you need a conditional use.
If
Yes,
it's
you
more
do.
than 500 participants.
Because of the number.
Because we
I was
put
just
that
curious.
in when we revised.
Yeah.
But that would be a one-off.
So the other question I have is,
One time.
One time.
if we could do this as a zoning parcel, how does that then affect the AX standing of the rest of the farm from the state standpoint? Can we do that? Do we have to have an actual separate parcel in order to meet those requirements?
I don't think that the state's gonna have any, it'll just drop out of that 3 acres or whatever would just drop out
Would
of
just
the
drop out.
AX. Yeah.
That would be
I
my
don't-
guess, but.
Are you
I'm,
changing the use of the property at all? You're doing exactly what you've been doing.
with a commercial kitchen though, you want to upgrade
Yeah,
the kitchen.
Sure, bringing it to code, it should have been
So you need a
licensed for
building
food.
permit.
Yeah, I'm submitting a building permit, absolutely.
Does he really need?
But I don't need the zoning for a building permit,
No.
right?
But yes, for the
The
building
events.
permit, you're gonna come to
Will
me.
you have more than 500 people?
I hope so.
Oh, really? Okay, okay.
At one time?
Yeah, but this is, let me step back here. He wants to put in a commercial kitchen, right?
I don't want to become a restaurant.
But-
I want to be able to serve food, and
But,
you can't serve food
food,
without
Yes,
a licensed kitchen.
and you, I'm not gonna sign off on the zoning permit on that building permit. He's gonna have to come back for that rural event venue.
Yeah, so that's a separate.
So that comes back to, how are you, because I'm about to have a surveyor do something, and I don't want him to do the wrong thing.
Let me, I will need to do a little more consideration on the zoning parcel. You would still need to give me the survey information, because
But on the whole property, or do we still carve out the buildings?
we would still have to, well, you're gonna have, you don't want to do the whole parcel, AS. You're still gonna wanna do just the farm buildings AS.
Is that gonna change, the assessor gonna,
It shouldn't change
Not for
the
AS.
significantly to go from agriculture to agriculture.
Okay.
That,
good.
it's going to residential. Yeah, it's going to residential that is going to be the bigger issue. But I'm still, even if we do the zoning parcel, I still need to have the survey information, because I need to know the exact parcel of land that's being rezoned.
So if this is not a CSM that's being recorded, is it necessary to survey the entire farm? Or can they just survey this?
No, it would not be necessary to survey the entire farm.
That's what you
Thank you. It helps to determine what the right question to ask is.
So if it's a CSM, if we're gonna create a separate lot to zone it AS, then yes, you would have to, you'd have to survey
Survey the
the
entire
entire farm.
farm.
If we can do it this way, that it's just a zoning parcel, even though Deanna doesn't like that. Anyhow. in this
I know.
case, then that would be a different bill from this here.
Much different.
Lower one.
Thank you.
10,000 versus.
So maybe you can get back to David with
Three to
whether
10.
that's gonna work and how, and whether
Difference of
it's
3
going
to
to
10.
impact, how the state looks at, the rest of the property. So is the idea that the property would at some point go into a conservancy, that's what you said?
That's their desire. I mean, none of the family wants to do the crazy work that I have to do.
Yeah.
So I proposed to them, because my family's always been involved in land trusts and things out east, and they said, well, if your family trust ever wants to, you know, get the property into a legacy land trust that would be forever preserved, because a family trust doesn't have to preserve it forever, then you would sell that land, the farm, to a land trust. We would lease from a land trust instead of a family trust. And that's what came up with, well, if you're gonna do that, you should take the house out of that before, because the land trust doesn't wanna deal with the house.
But you can do that down the road if it's.
And said, we don't need to do that
Right now,
now,
you don't need to
yeah.
deal with it. Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%, but your family trust can do the same thing if it chooses to.
Sure, yeah.
Legally, it can restrict the sale of that land. The family trust can restrict
But
the
just
sale
put an
of that
easement on
land.
it, they don't get any value for
Right.
it.
They don't, but they can, you can, through a trust, you can restrict the sale of that land, the use of that land. You
Sure.
have many things that you can do. You don't have to go to a legacy trust where that legacy trust may or may not lease you back that piece.
Right. Anyways,
Okay.
it's another person's issue 10, 20 years from now, maybe. Who knows?
Good deal. Well, we'll help you any way we can.
Thank
I will check on that and get back with you.
you. Okay, I will tell Bob to.
Any other
Close jets
questions
and
that you
wait
have of
until-
us or anything that you want?
Pardon?
Any questions you have of us or anything else you want to kind of talk about here while we're all here?
No, I would like to help do more things in the ag community. So, gotten to know sweet corn guys, got to know beef guys, got to, so we can all work together. Because we're a draw,
Yeah.
And so I promote, Bavaria sausage brats and, a lot of common co-marketing, if you want. Because once a family comes to our place and then they see, we're involved in Stoneman's do a sweet corn boil or something like that, that would be an appropriate event
Very much so.
Yep.
that I want
And the
to
same
hopefully foster
sure with the
some of them.
Bavaria or with the
Yeah.
whoever other else.
Rolling Pin Bakery, I've talked to her. Great.
You still have that walk-in cooler?
For the apples, sure, yeah. Big.
What do you know about that cooler, George?
I'm gonna invite him back for cooking up one of those hogs.
There you go.
Well, we
Thank you very
appreciate you
much.
working with, the other farmers in the
Yeah.
area too.
Yeah.
And these are some of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about, is how to encourage just exactly this type of thing. So, to the extent that we can be a resource, or that we can help you, or any of the other farmers
Yeah.
navigate what they want to get done through the city, please send them our way.
Great.
This is what we want to do. This is a really big part of what we want to do.
100%.
And I think, we're
This
great
is a-
location for biking, right? So biking to the barns and that kind of whole thing we've talked
As
about.
long as we can keep the trucks out of
Well,
Yeah,
now I've learned a lot.
Yeah, everyone's more excited about Upper Garden than they are about a quarry, right?
Oh my gosh, right, our mood shifted, didn't it?
We are a biking city, but the bikers have to learn to behave on the
Yeah,
road.
put your horses back on the road.
I know, thank goodness I have plenty of horses, because I think that might be the best option.
That is a
Coming
gr-
up. If
that
I
is-
have to drive an electric car or a tractor in the future, I'm totally choosing a horse. So,
There you go.
no,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for coming in.
You'll reach out when you have.
I will do so.
involved, really.
I'm running, I'm
We're
getting
running.
tight, yeah.
Yes. Do you
But-
want to tackle C?
I think what I just want to lay on the table, and this might take a little bit more conversation and thought. So, as you all know, we have the rural residential criteria. And I'm just gonna bring this up from the comp plan here so that we can all kind of see. So here's our rural residential criteria. And I highlighted a couple places in here that if you are outside of our FUDAs, such as the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood, you are permitted to use up to 2 of those claims to construct a house as long as it's sited in accordance to the rural residential criteria developed in accordance to city policies. And then we have, if you're inside the FUDA, you can only use 1 of those claims. And I just kind of highlighted this key text. It's telling you that you can build a new house if you're in accordance with that rural residential criteria. A little bit later down here, we have those rural residential criteria that some of you might be familiar with. These are the required ones: compatibility with adjacent farmland, environmentally sensitive, the lot shape, the woodland cover, heritage trees, and then these criteria are expected but may be waived: history of tillage, residential infill, the lot size, 1.5 acres, and erosion potential. So one of the things that has come up is whether or not a base farm could transfer a claim to another farm and build a new home. And I'm just bringing what's written here to you, what's in our comp plan. And then what I'd just like to pop up here, of course, in our code of ordinances, we have the rural cluster district requirements. And this does explicitly allow the transfer of credits. And it was designed to do that, right? Because if a base farm had 7 credits, they could only use at most 2. So to have some value in those 5 other credits, you all created the rural cluster district. So what is my question is, and this is a policy question, is whether or not one of those credits or claims could be transferred from one farm to another to just build a single house, not inside that rural cluster development.
The intent was yes, that could be done.
Okay?
And the intent was that could be done outside of the FUDA, but that there would not be transfers of splits from inside of the FUDA to outside of the FUDA. And the theory there was that eventually the land that will come into the
I
FUDA
gotcha.
will be able to be developed. So why have people double dipping by also transferring splits out of that area? They're gonna be able to develop their land. Why do we wanna transfer splits out of the FUDA? So that was the intent, was that you'd not be able to do that. And I think that's also why we only wanted one split to be used within
In
the
the
FUDA,
FUDA.
because eventually that land's gonna be presumably developable.
Okay, that makes
If we,
complete sense
if
to
we
me.
stick to our comprehensive plan.
Okay, that makes complete sense to me.
Where's the demand? Has there been any demand?
No, there's never been one transferred from one farm to another.
Yeah, but for any
Oh,
development
plan
outside the FUDA area, the demand to put one inside.
so Jerry, you want to do that, or you did that?
So that's,
You want to do that?
yeah, I don't know if we're speaking, but my discussions with Dina was originally on 66 acres roughly, I was told that there were no land splits. And I'm an exclusive ag, sole owner, and I guess that comes from history of someone splitting the original home off for estate purposes. So when I originally built my home in '99, I did not split anything off because I was told there was no development in that area. So, but homestead law says I could build a home there because it's a property. It's due to the lack of housing inventory in that area. My son, kind of wishing to stay in agriculture, his chosen profession, thought I could maybe put a parcel for him to build a homestead on.
So is that, where is the property? Is it inside the future development?
No, it's all exclusive ag.
Yeah, I can
Yeah, is that
bring
inside
that
or
up
outside?
if that's helpful.
It's probably outside.
North of Irish.
Yep. North of Irish, probably I'm headed towards,
East of
Tom
Fort-
Madison.
east of
On
Fort-
M, you mean?
I always get them confused, and I've lived there forever.
Okay.
yes.
Let me get there. Okay. So, now, I'm showing the colors are the FUDAs. Now, remind me here, Jerry, this is the site, right?
Yes.
So, like right in,
That's the neighbor.
That's, one up is their side.
oh, let me,
Jerry's side is just north of that one you,
Across from
right there,
this one?
right there. That's,
And so you're looking at building a home in here?
No, to the south of the adjacent, original home that was on that property.
right.
So here. Do I have the spot right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so you are outside of the FUDA.
Yeah.
I guess if the lot would be drawn, it would be right on the boundary there. I don't understand why it's splitting the parcel, part of it in, part of it out.
Well, I guess I'm not, these aren't surveyed kind of blocks
Rough
here.
approximation.
Yeah. But, so I won't split hairs on the exact line of this FUDA. But I guess then my question then, Jerry, are you transferring a credit that is also outside of FUDA?
We currently own property on Irish Lane, which I guess, given that it's now in the future urban zone, which we put up new grain bins and are farming currently the property there, is, I guess, now in the future urban area.
Well, I guess this is the tricky part, right? Because you also have this parcel out here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a, okay.
And additional parcels on Fish Hatchery and Wayland Road, how many acres? A couple hundred acres there, which, again, always been told it's exclusive ag and it's
outside all the development.
Yeah.
That's outside.
Right by the city garage.
Do you have some splits sitting on those acreages?
There's nothing developed on there. Again,
I'd-
according to homestead law, I could put 2 homes on those properties, because they won't have any occupied residents on them, but again, knowing that there's future consideration for things in that area, that would be something that considers, we don't really plan on splitting that. Chad really is planning on farming it as the next generation farmer, so that's kind of why.
I'm all about that, we have to figure out how to make it work.
Well, I don't know that it's a problem.
I don't
If
think
you,
it's a problem
if you've
at all.
got, if you've got a split
Bring
on
it over.
other land that is
Done.
outside of the food, and not the Irish Lane property, but, you know, there, you got, what, 40 acres to the north of it, that might have a split. The land over on Whalen, Fish Hatchery might have a split. Figure out which one, which,
Surely they have some splits if they've built nothing.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll have to work with you and.
and figure out where they are and strategically which one you might want to
What,
to
might
move,
want to
to move.
transfer.
But
Okay.
yeah, the
It was
intent
designed to
was
be
that
able
they
to
could
do
do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that was my central question here.
Well, it's encouraging to hear that, because,
And, yeah.
again, it was, we were never told, I think when we bought the property originally, that, you know, there was a split available, and then turns out that there's not.
A lot of things have changed, Jerry.
Well,
Chad won't have
again,
to
there
pay $8,000 to parkland dedication like I have to.
That's Chad's problem.
So that has changed. No, you're lucky, Chad, you're good, you're gonna have an extra $8,000 to.
No, again, the idea was to create a residential lot there, so again, knowing what my neighbor pays for taxes and what I pay for taxes on an agricultural home site, is this really the right thing to do, or use the conditional use, you know, to allow me to build a second home there for him? I mean, that's also in the exclusive ag zone.
Yeah, and then, but one of the issues you've got then is how do you
A
finance it?
state, and
You
again, we need him something
kind of
titled.
want to create that lot so that,
Yes,
so
titling
that
him
you can own it and
something,
you can get it financed, you can pay financing, that
Yeah.
type of thing too.
being able to title property and all that.
Yeah,
Owning
Yeah.
it himself.
That's encouraging to hear that that's a consideration, because, again, we don't have any plans to develop, you know, to be a developer, we're farming.
Yeah.
And I think continue to do that as long as we can.
That's the kind of stuff that makes sense to us. That's what we want. We want like actual farmers taking over farmland, building homes on it, and farming in Fitchburg. Like, that's why I sit here.
Title is going on your property?
Excuse me?
Title, the solar field is going on your property there?
No, next door to Snyder's.
There's 80 acres in between.
Yeah, Snyder's is, well, it used to be Snyder's Drive. And again, there's been a lot of pressure from the developers and communications companies to put towers all over the place, and Jim gets them
No
monthly.
allocation there.
So,
There's no one down there right now.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes.
Can't be here, well.
so thank you for your consideration.
Yeah, sure, yeah, there you go. You should be able to make something.
Yeah, we have to figure
Not for
this
me,
out.
though, that's for them guys to figure out.
So I'll work with planning and zoning. to
Yeah,
kind of identify
touch base
more.
with me on which farms. I know we talked, I know that you do have, at least a split here on the Irish Lane, but I'll need to check on the farm over on Whalen and Irish Lane.
Again, I think willing to work with Fitchburg on what makes most sense for the future. If this is gonna stay ag over there, then, you know, might be not an issue getting up a split there, because it will never be split.
I don't know how you would use that, if you have a split there, the one off of Irish, I don't know how you would use that split. For me, that's the one I would take.
Yeah, there's,
Because the other ones are easy
Because you
to.
can't
to
access.
get
That
there
was the whole
spots.
thing, is like, considering where to build, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because there's already farm access, and we're talking there, maybe easement to still be able to get into the field access.
Exactly. Losing a very little bit of farmland to make the easement,
Yeah.
because a lot of it's a staging area right now for equipment and.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
can
you can
easily
see.
fit within those requirements, and that's how you're identifying 200 feet and all that. It'll be
Yeah.
very easy.
And that's about an acre and a half that kind of sits in there, we roughly staked out where it comes, and then a driveway access roughly across the street where the other horseshoe driveway is for the neighboring farms. Keeping an agricultural access or easement on the top there where the current driveway is.
We talk on the north side of his house currently, but the driveway at the corner there really wouldn't meet the criteria for the speed limit
Yeah.
Well, give it the county on
Well, you know,
the
this will,
driveway.
because the other one was approved across from it, and this should fit the RDC too, that the clustering is gonna, it should fit that easily, so it should be.
I don't see any big problems with this.
We could just
Yeah.
split.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just,
Okay. Great.
Yeah,
Makes
good
sense.
idea coming here first before wasting a lot of money.
Okay, we're past 6 o'clock.
Thank you all. You bet. Thank you, guys.
Good luck at planning.
you don't want to stay?
Come again soon. You're gonna tell that story a lot.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Thank you.
No department report.
Announcements, the one announcement that I have is I will not be continuing on Plan Commission. So I don't know whether this will be my last meeting. I guess it depends on when Julia gets someone, finds someone. To make it. No. No, she, okay, we'll talk, yeah.
Okay.
No, she called me and asked me to continue. I did not want to. I've been doing it for about 30 years, and I just felt I was at the point where I was getting a little burned out on it, so. But I am the Plan Commission rep to Ag and Rural, so that will need to change too. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen
And
with that.
I
Plan
can't
Commission-
give you any answers.
the way that actually works is that Plan Commission makes that appointment. That actually is not a mayoral appointment.
Okay.
The
I'm not either.
Plan Commission itself, and so I don't know, do you happen to know, is Randy continuing on Plan Commission?
It's not.
He's not, okay. So will need to be, I believe, someone from District 4 that's on Plan Commission. The Plan Commission would then appoint as its route to Ag and Rural.
Okay.
Because the alder person will either still be Jim Wheeler or Randy from District 2. So Randy will still be here, or Jim, depending.
But there
on-
needs to be a rep from Plan Commission
too.
to Ag and Rural, and if Randy, because Randy is on Plan Commission now, but if he's not continuing on Plan Commission, then it will need to be someone else. Right? So,
I'll keep you in the loop on how this all unfolds. I do not know what the new mayor's plans are, other than she's going to chair Plan Commission, and Gabriella is going to be the council rep on Plan Commission.
she's going to be the council rep from Council Plan Commission. Okay.
Yeah. That's all I can tell you. I don't know.
Streams, Good Old Girls Network or something.
Oh, I think we probably should accept the motion to adjourn.
Wonderful.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.
Deanna, do we have do you have anything on your